All right, perfect. Thank you again, everyone, for participating in our polls. And I'm now pleased to introduce the presenters for today's webinar. We have Dr. Tamara Powell, Professor of English, specializing in African American women's literature. Ms. Tiffany Reardon, Instructional Designer for the College of Humanities and Social Sciences and part-time instructor of Technical Communication. Dr. Cassandra Race, part-time instructor of Technical Communication. Ms. Monique Logan, Lecturer of Technical Communication, and Dr. Jonathan Arnett, Assistant Professor of Technical Communication. And now I will go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Tamara Powell. You can go ahead and take the screen.
Unmute, sorry. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. We're still very excited about this project. And actually, I want to just go ahead and turn it over to Tiffany, and she's going to give a background on OERs.
Can you see everything?
Yep, we're seeing it.
Okay. Okay, well, my PowerPoint's not cooperating, so you're just going to see this PowerPoint thing. So it's hold on, I'm sorry, it's not doing what it's supposed to. Hang on just a sec. I'm sorry.
No worries.
I'm sorry, hang on just a second. I'm trying to move where my slideshow is showing up. It's like on the wrong screen.
Ah.
It's okay, well, you just won't get the fancy animation. Sorry. Sorry about that, everyone. Okay, so like Natalie said, I am Tiffany. I'm the instructional designer here and on the project that we're going to tell you about. And just before we get started, I wanted to give you a little bit of a background on OER in case you don't already have it. So first, what are OER? So the definition does vary, and it varies based on necessity. It could be based on cost, could be based on copyright, language, modality, accessibility, and there are probably other things that could be on this list, but overall, all of these things tend to kind of combine to say that access is the most important thing when it comes to defining OER. At KSU, though, we do primarily focus on cost, modality, and accessibility with a little bit of copyright in there, depending on the project and what we're, I guess, depending on what we're doing, because we do, a lot of faculty here will use things that are still copyrighted, but instead they'll just link to them so that they don't violate that copyright. So it's sort of a, copyright is a maybe, maybe not kind of situation here. Why should we consider OER? From the student side, 65% of students choose not to buy a college textbook because it's too expensive. And that is because textbook prices have risen approximately 82% in the last decade. That's kind of a big bump. And then on top of that, students are paying an estimated $1,200 per year for textbooks because they've gotten so expensive. In addition to that, the money that they're paying for textbooks, in-state students are also paying an estimated $18,000 for tuition fees and housing at a four-year public institution, and that's as of 2016. Tuition it is probably going up every year. I don't know the exact percentage, but and then aside from the money, I guess the specific money numbers, textbook revision cycles are becoming shorter and shorter, which makes it hard for students to make use of used or rented copies. they could make an attempt at that, but it may not be reliable, and page numbers, things like that may not line up, and the used and rented copies may or may not be in print. They may not be able to find them. And also students are taking fewer classes per semester in order to afford those textbooks. But when they do that, that extends their time in college, which also increases their debt load. So that's sort of from the student perspective of why we should think about OER. From the faculty side, though, there are benefits there too. They free faculty from the constraints of textbook revision cycles, so you don't have to constantly go back in your course and update page numbers that may or may not have actually changed the content. It also frees faculty from the constraints of textbook structure, so instead of trying to follow chapter structure in a textbook, you may be using resources from a lot of different places that support the topic that you're talking about that particular week. And then they also free you from the "my financial aid hasn't come through, so I can't buy the textbook yet" excuse for as far as students not completing their work in the first few weeks of class, which is also a student benefit. That particular line is good for faculty and good for students. And OER improve course evaluations. I don't have exact data on that, but I can assume that it's based on morale in the classroom. Students like that their professors care enough to find alternative ways to teach instead of using expensive textbooks, and they also often increase engagement and other things like that in their courses. When you're considering Creative Commons, though, that's sort of the copyright side of it. They also free faculty from the vagueness of fair use laws. The laws surrounding fair use are not exactly specific, and it makes it hard for faculty to follow that. And they also offer very easy to use reuse guidelines. The Creative Commons licenses tell you exactly what you can and can't do. And then from the university side, eliminating these expensive textbooks, it does lower the student debt load. Again, a benefit for students, but also a benefit for universities. But lowering that student debt load also improves student success and retention on course level, program level, and it also improves graduation rates as an extension of that. And because of all of this stuff combined, all of the student benefits, the faculty benefits, and the university benefits, it also improves student satisfaction. So that cost does affect student success in some major ways. So we're going to, I'm going to pass it back to Tammy. She's going to talk a little bit about how this project started as we move into the actual topic for today.
Thanks, Tiffany. And can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I kind of feel like the grandma of this project. I mean, this was a dream of mine for a long time, but today you're gonna hear the kids talk because they've been doing all the exciting stuff. I'll just give you the background. Long ago, when I started teaching tech writing, I did not understand how expensive tech writing books are. As you saw, I'm an English professor. I do love tech writing. I've been teaching it for 20 years, but I didn't at the beginning, English books, you get your book for $1, $2, the novels or whatever. Now the anthologies are different, but these tech writing textbooks were like $100 and some odd. But back then in the late 90s, they came out every 4 or 5 years, so it wasn't like now where it comes out every year. There's a new $250 textbook and you have to change your whole course. And with topics like tech writing, because I totally understand if you teach, I don't know, current events, you can see how writing your own textbook is maybe not the best idea because you would have to change it all the time. But for beginning French, beginning tech writing, like these things don't change. And the things that do change, like the technology, you're the faculty member, you're supposed to be keeping up with that anyway. That's not the textbook's job, or at least that's my opinion. So I got really tired of sort of being at the mercy of publishers, and they would put out a new tech writing textbook and they would just switch 2 chapters. So I'd have to redo my whole class. The students would have to pay for a new textbook, and there was no benefit to any of us. So that was my motivation. I was super excited when the Affordable Learning Georgia grants came out and faculty could get a little bit of money. I think after the taxes and everything, we get about $4,000 to write an open textbook or create a course with open resources. So I'm the campus champion for the Affordable Learning Georgia initiative for Kennesaw State, which means I'm the cheerleader really for the OERs for Kennesaw State. And we have a library champion, April Schweikart, who really works with the library resources. Initially, when we did the math, we said we were going to save students $55,000, and that was the presentation we did several years ago, how to save your students $55,000. But now I think we're saving them 78, right? Tiffany's nodding. 78,000 a year. So it's really been a money savings for students. And as someone who teaches with this textbook, the students love it. And I can't say, I mean, it's a tech writing textbook. They're not like trying to marry it or anything. But I mean, they love the fact that it's free. They love the fact that it's right in their D2L section. When they go in, the reading is right there. We're able to link the chapters, you know, chapter by chapter, which brings me to why we use SoftChalk, because it actually served as a project management platform for us. In the SoftChalk cloud, you can share your work. And so we were able to share the textbook among the authors, share the chapters. And now, even though we do have the whole book up on a website, because that was part of the deal with the Affordable Learning Georgia grant, that we had to make it available globally, which I'll tell you in a minute. We have a digital commons at Kennesaw State, and I'll show you that we do have actually a global reach with it. We're also able through SoftChalk to just link out the chapters into D2L. The students aren't looking for anything. As Tiffany pointed out, the book is always right there for them to use. And it was great. SoftChalk also allows you to, you know, print off the chapters individually. The students pointed out to me that, because they said they want a print version. I'm like, I would just print it. You know, there's a little print button there. And they said, oh, I don't know. They told me it was like $80 to print the whole thing or whatever. Plus, each one of us who teaches it uses different chapters. So it was hard to get a print version. But we did actually create a print version and told students, don't buy it, don't print it, just use the digital version. But I don't know. They said they wanted a print version, and they complained about the print version and said they want a digital version. We said, but that is the version you're supposed to use is the digital version. So I don't know. There was some confusion there. Anyway, the end of all of my section, and we'll get on to the important data and stuff in a minute, is that with the digital commons, they gave us the printout. Did you? Tiffany's gonna pull it up.
I can't find it. I'm sorry. I'm looking for it.
That's all right. And the upshot of it is that we have like 182 downloads in Thailand. We have a bunch of downloads in South Africa. So even though when you look at the downloads, that I think Jonathan's going to show you, probably many of the downloads are local because he's looking at, you know, our students and who's downloading it from our classes. If you look at the digital commons downloads, we have this global textbook, and people are really appreciative of it. And it's really cool too because it has videos from experts. Like, I thought we did cool stuff. We put assignments in there for teachers to use if they're teaching the textbook. We put quizzes in there for students to test themselves as they move through the content. But we also put videos from experts in there that people would come in the office and Tiffany videoed them, and we'd put them up, and it's all accessible. So I was excited about all of that. But I'm going to go ahead and turn it back to Tiffany, who's going to talk to us about other project data.
So Natalie's let us know that there's some background noise on our end. I'm sorry about that. There is like a party going on next door.
I will put a stop to that. Excuse me.
So okay, she's left to make them be quiet. So So with this project that Sammy's told you about, we did a major overhaul on it. We came back and made some big edits, and I put this little 2E here, but we're not actually calling it a second edition. It's just the textbook, and we've updated it. But some of the big things that we changed, we had a major style overhaul. So we made it a more consistent design. We added learning objectives to every chapter, made that consistent. And we improved the accessibility of it, which was a big deal because there's, I mean, for one, accessibility is really important in higher ed and really everywhere right now, but in the process of doing this update, we had some major pushes at KSU, and one of those things was that everything needs to be accessible. So we sort of did that update alongside all of the changes at KSU. And then we've also done some technology updates. So we moved it into the SoftChalk cloud, and that's where it's hosted now. And we added Google Analytics to all of them, which Jonathan's going to talk about. But when we moved it to the cloud, we also purchased and forwarded a domain name. So we do have this sexytech.com as our domain name now. And that will forward to the cloud so that they're still ending up in the cloud, but it's easier to find with this domain name. So I'm gonna click on this and go to it, or not. Maybe I'm just gonna copy and paste it. I'm gonna do that instead. All right. Can you see that I've changed to Google Chrome, or are you still seeing the PowerPoint?
We're still seeing the PowerPoint right now.
Okay, let me change my share. Now you see it.
Yep.
Okay, so this is the updated version of the textbook, and I can actually show you for comparison. I do have the old one is still up right now because I haven't taken it down. Oh, that didn't work. Or not. Maybe I can't show you. I know it's up there. And that's PowerPoint, so that's not very helpful either, but maybe this one. Ha! Okay. So, sorry. So for comparison, this is the old and this is the new. Much nicer design, much more, I guess, easy on the eyes, I think. And the chapters look different too. So like I'll show you just our intro chapter. This is our table of contents. This was the old one. But if we look at chapters, so this is the way that our old chapters looked. We had the blue and purple background and the interesting little picture logo thing, and it was very simple, and so there were some accessibility issues and some design issues, but then when we made the update, it became a lot more a lot nicer looking, and it also became mobile friendly. So the design is responsive. It changes as the window changes, which is a feature of SoftChalk. So the latest update to SoftChalk also helped us with a lot of the updates that needed to be done on the textbook as well. So let me go back to the presentation. So that's sort of some of the, I guess, the updates that we did on the textbook. But in addition to that, we've also had a new online master course designed, and it was designed by me, but with the help of actually both Jonathan and Tammy. I pulled a lot of activities and stuff from their courses and the things that they've done in their courses. So it was really a collaborative effort, but it isn't a master course for online, but it's sort of inspired by a face-to-face class, and it's a flipped model that's applied to online. So it's very like highly interactive and very engaging, and it's designed to work with sexy technical communication. So the students are, when they take this course, that's the textbook they're using. And in our department, they do have the option to not use that textbook, but because the course is designed with that textbook, it did, when we launched, this semester, we have multiple people teaching it as sort of a pilot, and we're getting a lot of feedback from it. But when we did that, because the course was designed with that textbook, most of the faculty, actually, I think all of the faculty who are using that course this semester did also adopt the textbook voluntarily. And on top of that, some of the people who didn't adopt the new course, also they did adopt the text this semester, which was actually interesting, and I'm glad. I was excited to hear that. And there are some people in the department that are teaching with our textbook in all modalities, face-to-face and online. So because of those new adoptions and the updates and the addition of this online master course, our impact has increased dramatically from that 55 to 78,000 annually. And we actually expect it to rise even more, which I'm actually going to let Jonathan talk about. Take it away, if you're here. If you're talking, Jonathan, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Okay, I am unmuted. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hey, Jonathan.
Hey there. Okay, great. I guess I am on, so I will start presenting. What I'm going to talk about is research that I've done into the actual use of the OER by our students. So start up my PowerPoint here.
You'll have to make sure that you share your screen.
Okay. And can you see what I'm seeing? Is it up?
No.
Okay.
Not yet.
All right, so I need to click share. Then I'm going to go to screen 1. I'm going to share that, and then I guess you can see.
We're seeing
You're seeing yourselves.
Zoom. Yep, there we are.
Okay, great. All right, so I'll be talking about our current situation at Kennesaw State. First, a little bit of background, and then I'll get into the Google Analytics and what exactly it is that we're studying. So right now at Kennesaw State, we have this class called TCOM 2010, Technical Writing. It's the one in which we're using this textbook based on SoftChalk. We're running through about 1,500 students a year on this thing, so it's the size of a small composition. Well, depends on the size of the university, but it's the size of a composition program. We're getting all these students because this class is required for the engineers. They have to take the ABET criteria, and ABET is the Accreditation Board for Engineering and Technology. If you're not familiar with it, let us summarize by saying that it is kind of a big deal. So we're also increasing enrollment in this class because we've developed this online course shell. There's an increasing demand for online courses, so we're getting students running through this. And also we're doing Gen Ed changes here at Kennesaw State. The exact nature of them really isn't important to any of you here, but just know that we are going to be changing some of the requirements so that instead of literature classes, it's possible that students may be able to take the technical communication class as a basic area requirement for their Gen Ed, in which case we may see a whole lot more students beyond our 1,500 we already have. The book we're using is The Sexy Technical Communication. We've used it from summer 2016 onward. That's when we piloted the thing. And as of spring 2018, it's been used in 28 sections with over 700 students. Now that's a year ago now. This is just the data I've been able to collect and get collated. I'm still studying this, so there have been more than 28 sections by far, with far more than 700 students. But we're also looking at increasing the number of people using this book because we're standardizing the course contents across all the sections of all the sections of TCOM 2010. And because we're doing that, as Tiffany mentioned, we have this shell. We're probably going to start using this same idea, this structure for the shell throughout all of our courses, and that may encourage people to use this OER even more. The study I'm going to talk about here involves my TCOM 2010 courses and the students' access data from those courses. So how do students get the OER? They get links to it on the class very first day. What I do is I put up my course on a website and I link to it through the learning management system. So I put up links to the Sexy TechCom through the course schedule webpage. I also put it up on the course policies page. There's a link that says your textbook is this. They can click that. I also put it up through the learning management system's course page so the students can always get back to the OER through there directly. And I've also got one assignment description. I have a link directly to that. The things that we look at when we talk about Google Analytics. I'm going to run through this list here. So if you're not familiar with Google Analytics, there's a whole lot it can do. This is fairly basic analysis. So I'll give you some terms to hang your hats on, so to speak. To begin with, we're talking users or visitors. These are the people that visit the OER. The computer cannot tell who is visiting. They can only tell what the computer can only tell what computer is visiting. So if you visit, for example, on your desktop from work, that is, you are one unique user. If you are the same person accessing it on your, say, your phone, it doesn't know that you are the same person, so it'll count you as two separate users. We have new visitors and new users. Those are the total number of new devices that go onto the OER. So every time that a new device comes in, the Google Analytics will mark it as a new person. So this gets a little complex with the accounting. So let me run through this very quickly. The way it happens is you go to the website for the first time. Google Analytics says, I don't recognize this computer. You are a new user. So it puts a check mark in this box. Then the next time you come back, it says, oh, okay, I recognize this computer. It takes that mark from the new users and just puts it in the regular users box. So the number is in flux, and also depending on the time you analyze, Google resets the analysis at midnight, so it's possible for the numbers to be off. So numbers are never a one-to-one correspondence. Sessions. Each time that you log in, that counts as a session. The bounce rate. When a person comes to a website, stays on one page for a very short time, and then leaves right away without going to any other pages, that is called a bounce. And the low bounce rate means you have call it a sticky web page that people are going to come browse around and go to multiple pages. That's our goal as web designers. The number of pages per session, that's one of the metrics. So how many pages do people go to? How long do they stay? What service provider? This will tell us where people are accessing the OER, where they're coming from physically while they are accessing it, and also the kind of device that the people are using. Google Analytics can tell you all sorts of really cool stuff, but these are some of the basic ones, and these are the ones that I'm using in my study. So let's talk about the data I've collected. I'm gone through my TCOM 2010 classes in summer 2017, fall 2017, and spring 2018. I'm only going to talk in detail and show you the examples from summer 2017 because, well, a lot of it's really mind-numbing and repetitive, but I'll give you an example of what I'm looking at, and then we'll talk at the very end about the general trends that we've discovered. So let's take a look at some sample data from these classes from summer 2017. What we're looking at here is a reproduction of a screen. I've screenshotted essentially and just reformatted the contents of a Google Analytics result. So right here, we notice that we've got 30 students enrolled in this class. We have 55 people coming in as total users and 41 coming in as new users. What that's telling us is that there are 55 people coming in on a device for the first time, and 41 people have come on a device for twice. Now, if we look at this number, that's not necessarily great because if the number of total users is not much higher than the number of new users, that's telling us that students are not coming back a whole lot frequently. The course schedule, we have 38 new users and 29 returning users. Similarly, the people who are coming looking at they're coming from the course schedule page as the most frequent versus the course policies page. Only 2 people are coming from there. And there's only 1 person coming straight from an assignment page. So we find that in terms of where do students come from, they come from my course schedule page. There are 30 students in the class, and they were assigned 11 blocks of readings. So accordingly, 11 times 30 is 330. We would expect to have 330 sessions of students logging in to read. There are only 124. A mean reading length was assigned as 7.64 pages, but we look at how many pages per session and how long do the students stick around. 5.44 pages and 6 minutes and 1 second. So they're reading about 5 pages and spending just a little over a minute on each page. That's not necessarily the most encouraging result, but it is a result, so we're happy to have the data. The bounce rate is 18.55%. I'll talk about what that means a little bit later. Then let's talk about the type of devices. As we can see from this data here, most people are coming in through a desktop machine. Matter of fact, almost all the users are coming in through desktop machines. Only 1 is coming in through a mobile device, and that person went to 2 pages, but only stayed for 17 seconds. So it doesn't count as a bounce, but it really should. So this pattern tends to appear over most of the semesters, where desktop is by far the most common means of access. Where are students coming from? The access networks. You'll notice here that the network domain, the second column, spsu.edu, a short history lesson that put this in context. Kennesaw State has 2 campuses. One used to be the Southern Polytechnic State University, and that is where I'm physically located. It's where I've been teaching my classes. So the spsu.edu is our legacy network. It's the legacy name for the network here on this physical campus. We can see that those numbers there of users and new users, 21 and 15, 10, 1, 1, those are by far the highest of the other sources. Now you'll notice up at the very top it says course schedule network domain not set. Sometimes for whatever reason Google is not able to pick up where the person is coming from, so it just reads it as not set. But even so, if we look at this, we realize that most of the students who are accessing this are doing it on campus. There's a good number who are not on campus, but a lot of them, almost most of them, are doing it on campus. This is where things get kind of interesting. What I've done here is I've graphed the access points and the dates of the things were assigned. So if you look at the gray lines, those are the dates that readings were due. So there was a reading due on the 3rd, on the 7th, on the 13th. So if we look through here, you can see, or actually that's the 12th, excuse me. If we look through here, you can see when did students actually log in. So if we look at the times that these match up, it shows us a bit of a trend. Yes, students are logging in, doing their reading, but not a whole lot of them. There are 4, then, well, looks like 1, then 3. As we go across, you can see that the number actually kind of stays even to trailing off. Then if we look at the dates of quizzes, each of the gray lines is a day that a quiz was due, and the graph shows the access patterns. So here we notice that students appear to be logging in when it's time for a quiz. About the due dates for assignments. Unfortunately, the highest peak is conflated with a quiz, so it's hard to tell which is responsible, but I'm guessing it's probably for the quiz. So when we look at this, we realize students are logging in sometimes to look at the assignments. Besides the assignment description, they come back to the OER and say, what is it I'm supposed to do? They read up a little bit on it. So I've got that data for all the semesters, but again, I didn't want to go through it line by line because it's a bit mind-numbing. What I do want to show you here is the comparisons over all the semesters. If we look at this from the new versus returning users over all the semesters and all the sections I've been teaching, the numbers of new users are always high compared to the numbers of total users. That's not particularly a good sign, because if the new users are that high, that's telling us students are logging in for the first time, or they're only logging in once or maybe twice but using different computers, versus if the number of total users was really high and the number of new users was low, that would tell us students are coming back over and over and over and over again. Numbers of new users and returning users are always similar. Similarly, that's telling us that students are coming in, checking it out, but not coming back frequently. In terms of comparing the expected versus actual sessions, the usual number of expected sessions, that is the number of students times the number of reading assignments, is usually less or but not much higher than the number of actual sessions. So it does vary. So we can see that students are doing their reading, but not all of them very frequently. Then again, this pattern probably holds true for paper textbooks as well. We're just getting data for the first time on what students actually do. How about the assigned versus completed readings? How long are the things done? Well, the number of assigned pages is always greater than the number of viewed pages. So students are coming in, starting their reading, or skipping around, finding a few things and saying, yeah, good enough, I'm done. Similarly, they're only staying for about a minute per page, so they're clearly coming in and skimming. They are not necessarily sitting down and doing in-depth readings. Now, if you drill into the data, you will find that some of the users actually do stay, and they stay, and they stay. But then again, there are also those who come in, look a little bit, say, oh, great, and then boop, they're gone. Bounce rates. As we can see, the bounce rates are about 18.5%, just over 20%, about 18%, and almost 16%. Well, remember, a bounce is a person who comes in, stays for a minute, and then boop, leaves without looking at more pages. These numbers may seem high, but in fact, according to standard metrics, a bounce rate lower than 20% is excellent, but it's excellent for a commercial website. So if you're trying to get someone to buy something, you want them to come in, stay, look at multiple pages. And if you can get a bounce rate that low, you're probably going to make a lot of money. For us, it's not bad, but at the same, you got to account for human nature, come in, browse a little bit, take off. But at the same time, we would like them to stick around longer and have a lower bounce rate because this thing is assigned, hey, we'd like you to read this. To know that they are coming in, at least 18% of them are coming in and just boom, taking off again. Not particularly encouraging, but at the same time, they probably do the same thing for their paper textbooks. So we know that if 18.55% are bouncing, that means that the remainder of them are actually sticking around and looking at more than that amount of that one page. So we'll take it as a good sign. The device categories. By far, desktop and laptop computers are the most frequently used devices. So we do optimize for mobile, for tablet or phone, but at the same time, it's probably going to be desktop users who use the thing. Who comes in? Where do they come from? For the most part, about a third of the total hits come from on-campus students, in particular the ones on campus here at the Marietta campus of Kennesaw State University. So, in terms of all semester, the spikes in access rates, they matched up best with the due dates for quizzes. Spikes with readings tended to get smaller as the semester progressed. So they would do their readings at the beginning of the semester, and then the number of them doing readings would taper off. And then spikes associated with quizzes, they were almost always larger than the spikes for readings and assignments. What does it all mean when you put it together? It tends to mean that a lot of the students in the TCOM classes didn't use the OER. Not a fairly small number of students accessed it, and the students who did browsed the contents and did so selectively. But here's the deal. The students did access the OER for quizzes, so they actually are using the text at all. The data is actually from classes that I've been teaching, and my personal teaching style may have a lot to do with this access rate data. I tend to lecture more than I should. This is one of the things I'm trying to change. I'm going to try to flip the classroom more. So accordingly, if I do research on the classes in the future, this data may change. And in addition, as we already mentioned, we're using an online shell. Particularly the courses that are based on the online, there's not much lecture in those things at all, so students are going to be very heavily dependent on the OER. It would be very surprising, to me personally anyway, if the data from those does not contradict the data I've got from my on-site classes. So further research is necessary. And that's what I have. Thank you for listening, and I wish you all a happy Pi Day. back to you.
Thanks, Jonathan.
I actually have more, I'm sorry, just a little bit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Go ahead and take it back.
Sorry, we have a lot of information. Okay, back on me?
Yep.
Okay, so just real quick, that information from Jonathan is so interesting to me because we can't really do that with paper textbooks. So it's kind of cool that we can do that with the OER. Goals is, we have some goals, I guess, for the future. So the first one, if you Google search free technical communication textbook, our textbook does not come up. We want to fix that. So I think one of our goals for the future is to improve that search engine optimization. And also the student feedback on surveys has been in favor of the option of a low-cost print version. That doesn't mean that everyone wants it, but there have been students who have asked for it. And as Tammy was saying, we did attempt it. It wasn't great, mostly because the SoftChalk doesn't translate well into like a print version. It prints out as a PDF, but it doesn't really translate well into an online textbook the way that we've built it. But we want to try that again. So the second goal is to create a high quality, low cost print version. And lessons learned. And these are also tips for you. First, use a strong project management technique and stick to it. We kind of winged it on project management, and it did work out in the end, but there were some rocky parts as far as getting meetings organized and staying organized as a team because there were so many of us there and working on this. And also work through the accessibility from the beginning. It's a lot more work to implement accessibility retroactively than it is to design with it in mind from the beginning. And that was something that we sort of learned on this update. Plan learning objectives from the beginning. It's going to help you stay on task when you're writing and editing chapters. And it'll also help with consistency among, across the chapters if that information is there and in the same place every time. It's also a best practice from an instructional design standpoint. And work with a technical communicator or writer. Our team was lucky. That's because that's our area. Textbook writing and textbook design falls under that technical writing category. But we were lucky, but the other disciplines should really consider that technical communication consult, someone that can give them that advice. And finally, work with an instructional designer. If you're at a university, you probably have one to talk to. But if not, find someone with that kind of background to consult with on the design of the textbook. And now I'm done.
And Tiffany did a
Thank
great
you.
job.
We did have a couple questions that came in. Someone was asking, can you tell if a student printed the content? I don't know about through Google Analytics if you want to chime in on that part, Jonathan, but I think SoftChalk might tell us if people click the print button, but that's not the only way to print, so I'm not sure if that would really, I'm not sure how accurate that would be. But yeah. I don't know. Jonathan, do you know if that's something Google Analytics can track?
No, Google Analytics can't do that, but that may be, just speculating out loud, that may be one of the reasons for people who come in very briefly. They just come in, hit print, boom, and then go to the next page. So that's entirely possible that could be part of it. We would have to look at data from our student surveys to find out.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Another question that came in for you, Jonathan, was the data that you were drawing from, that was currently completely from face-to-face, correct?
That's correct, yes. Well,
Okay.
almost. There was a hybrid class in there. Let me see here. I can look it up very quickly. I've got my data here looking. Yeah, I had 1, 2, 3, 4 on-site sections and 1 hybrid section. I have not done anything with an online section yet.
Okay. And another person was asking, did you export student engagement into your LMS?
So there is some, there are engagement components in the textbook itself. There are quizzes and activities and videos and stuff embedded into it. But there is also a lot of engagement in this new online master course. Every week has some kind of interactive activity that students should be doing, and those are graded. So anything graded, yes, is in the LMS itself, but anything that's not graded is actually part of the textbook.
Okay, thank you. No other questions have come in for the moment, so while we see if any other questions come in, I'm going to go ahead and take back the screen and just give everyone contact information, and then if no other questions come in the meantime, then we'll just go ahead and wrap up.
Okay.
Sounds great.
All right. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Great. Okay, if once the webinar has ended, you find that you do have any additional questions, I have included the contact addresses for Dr. Tamara Powell, Ms. Tiffany Reardon, and Dr. Jonathan Arnett. Please feel free to reach out to them if anything comes up later. If you have any questions or would like more information about SoftChalk, you can visit our website at softchalk.com, or you can send an email to learnmore@softchalk.com. And as of now, no additional questions have come in, so I'll go ahead and just say thank you so much to Tamara, Tiffany, and Jonathan for presenting this afternoon. And we really appreciate everyone's time and hope that you all learned a lot. I know I did. So have a great day, everyone. And again, you'll get the recording sometime tomorrow.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you all.
Hey, Natalie.